Hey there, Purple Marine 81 here. I wanted to do a video kind of voicing some of my concerns about some of the things that are going on right now. Um, I don't really like to get into the whole gloom and doom thing and, try to predict what's going to happen or scare people into, thinking that, the world's going to come to an end and all this kind of nonsense. Um, but at the same time you can't be somebody who sits there with their head buried in the sand. If things are falling into place or happening and multiple people who are creditable and as to what they're saying are all saying the same thing, you'd be a fool to not listen to what it is that they're saying. And with anything, I'm a firm believer in you can't just take what's being said um, on face value. You got to look into things on your own. Come to your own conclusions. Trust your gut. At least that's what I do. Um, and being a prepper, you know, inherently you're probably going to be somebody who's a little bit more paranoid about things going bad or what have you. It's kind of comes with the territory, I guess. But with that being said, you know, there, there's a lot of crazy people out there, that are years ago, were saying that the world was going to end in 2000 and all this, and there's all these, everybody's always saying the world's going to end on this date, and then it doesn't happen. Um, and that's not what I want to make very clear. That's not what I'm saying is going to happen here. That's not what this video is about. It's just about the fact that I personally feel that we are going to see a drastic change happen in our standard of living within the next, I would say, 5 years max, 2 to 5 years. Um, the reasons why I say that is because of what I've seen in the past 4 years. Um, I've seen this kind of steady progression uh, from the way our standard of living and our quality of life was in our economy 4 years ago and up to now, in the direction that it seems that it's heading. If you're like me, or if you follow at all what's going on in the financial industry, um, our markets, uh, just whatever's going on in Wall Street, the unemployment rate, the dollar index. I mean, any of this type of stuff, if you pay attention to it at all, I'm sure you probably don't need me to tell you that it's been on a downward slope, a heavy downward slope since '08, um, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. There was a little bit of an increase, there where it looked like we were starting to come out of the recession, but with the recent drop in, well, I guess just to back up a little bit, if you don't know, recently here, the U.S. credit rating was basically demoted, if you will, um, because of our outstanding debt. Um, and the fact that we came really, really close to defaulting on the interest payments on that debt, it was demoted. Now, basically, what that's done since that's happened, it's pretty much had a domino effect um, on the market. Um, it's pretty much put a lot of fear in anybody who's wanting to invest, or any other foreign countries wanting to buy U.S. Treasury debt because of the fear of us paying on the interest, that we're not going to be able to pay it back. And most of the stuff that I've read has said that they think that it's going to be demoted again within the next 2 years, Uh, and the primary reason for that is just because of the fact that they basically see that the U.S. can't cut spending effectively. And when it comes to finding some sort of resolution as far as figuring out how to pay on its debt and correct this out of control spending, that our own government lacks the ability to work together from both sides of the aisle to come to some sort of solution. Um, that there's too much in our party bickering in order to find some sort of resolution, which I think they're right on. Um, but another problem that brings to bear is the fact that this is the first time in history that this has happened. Um, our debt is, I'm sure totally just insanely out of control. Um, and what I foresee that happening, or not what that happens, sorry, is what that's going to trigger is for a while now, there's been a lot of talk of the US dollar being removed as a world reserve currency. Now, what that basically means, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with that term, is basically that the US dollar is a world reserve currency, which means that oil's based in dollars. It's priced in dollars as far as its value. Anything as far as import exports can be bought and paid for with the US dollar. Um, Now, that has a lot of different effects. It basically means, bottom line, if you want to oversimplify it, it basically means that everything's priced in dollars. Import exports can be paid for with dollars. And that anything that is imported to the US, your products, say that you go and buy something, say a washing machine that's imported from China, you're going to get a lot better price on it because of the fact that it's based off a US dollar. Now, that may not really make a whole lot of sense to you, but I'm not going to go into any kind of great detail. But what it pretty much means is that because of the decline in the US dollar, the fact that last time I checked, the dollar index was at 73 cents. So it means that the US dollar is not worth $1, it's worth 73 cents. In 08, it was down to 70 cents, I believe, somewhere in around there. And that was, to my knowledge, the lowest it has ever been. Now, because of everything that's going on, the decline in the dollar, the downgrading of the U.S. credit rating, the fact that it's going to be downgraded again, that's going to prevent people from, or other nations like China, India, really large holders of U.S. debt. China owns about a quarter of the U.S. debt, roughly. That they're going to stop buying U.S. debt because they're too worried that the U.S. is not going to be able to pay back that debt or even make interest payments on it. And the fact that our economy is so sharply declining and that it continues to decline, they're not going to want to touch it. Now, what they probably are going to do, or what I foresee happening in the future, is that they're going to remove the U.S. dollar from being the world reserve currency and go to something else that's more stable, or something that's more easily manipulated by world leaders. Well, what that's going to do is it's going to have a catastrophic effect on our economy. Right off the bat, it's going to make the U.S. dollar value plummet. From 73 cents to $1 on the dollar, it's going to, I don't know what it would probably bottom it out to, but it would be pretty bad. It would probably drop it to I don't know. I mean, I'm not an economist, but probably half. So it'd be worth half of what it was worth, or less, maybe. I don't know. If somebody knows a more accurate figure, let me know. Secondly, what that's going to do is it's going to make prices, like I said, for anything, especially oil. Oil is going to skyrocket. You're going to see the price of gas jump to anywhere from $5 to $10 a gallon. Then you have to look at transportation of goods for anything that uses gas, all the shipping. That's going to make the price for all of those types of goods, which is pretty much almost damn near everything, How many times do you pick up something that you bought and says that it's been made and imported from China? Almost damn near everything, right? So that means that almost everything, the price of it is going to go way up overnight. So that means all of the goods that you buy, including food, is going to skyrocket. Inflation is going to go through the roof. So that, like I said before, that's what your dollar's able to buy is going to be considerably less. The products that you try to buy are going to be considerably higher. Because of all this, it's going to make the unemployment rate jump through the roof, 30, 40%, maybe even higher. So then you've got a hell of a lot more people out of work. Another side effect from the US dollar not being a world reserve currency is the fact that the government can no longer print more money to pay for the services that it offers, primarily being social services. You're talking about unemployment, any kind of welfare. It's not going to have the money to be able to pay for that stuff anymore because it can't just print more money in order to pay for that things, to bail itself out. So that means a lot of those things are going to go away. So that's going to be gone. So basically what it boils down to is if that does happen, which I foresee it happening within the next 2 to 5 years, pretty much overnight, it's going to be a catastrophic economic failure for the U.S. So bottom line, really the gist or the reason behind me making this video is I wanted to try to at least put it into perspective what can happen and how easily it can happen. 2 years ago, there was a behind closed doors meeting where the U.S. was not invited to. And this involved the higher end, leaders of, the other superpowers or soon to be superpowers in the U.S. or not in the U.S. I'm sorry, in the world economically. And the whole reason for this meeting was to determine whether or not there was a better alternative to the world reserve currency rather than the U.S. dollar. Bloomberg basically said, because he was obviously one of the people that was there, that the U.S. dollar was pretty much no longer the world reserve currency. It was only a matter of time before it was officially switched out for something else. And that was 2 years ago. And I just kind of think that what's been happening here recently is kind of going to be the trigger effect to everything else kind of falling into play. And as I said, I'm not trying to scare people. I just think that more people need to be aware of what's going on and how easily things can happen. The bottom could fall out tomorrow. Or like I said, it might be 5 years before something like that happens. I hope it doesn't, but it's just the trends are pointing to it going that way, not the other way around. So if I were you, I would kind of kick your prepping into high gear and just to be on the safe side. If you're anything like me, if you try to put it in that kind of context of, say, I've got a maximum of 2 years before it's virtually impossible for me to prep, basically, because right now I do have excess money that I can put into doing this. If the economy suffers that kind of a collapse, I'm just going to be trying to survive. I'm not going to be able to, none of us are going to be able to go to Walmart or whatever and spend an extra $50 in prepping goods. It's not going to happen. So, I guess that's the whole gist of me doing this. This video is I just want to make people more aware of what's going on and throw my 2 cents out there. Maybe get some good discussions going on. Talk about, maybe some solutions to maybe, not the economy. There's no way that we're, probably going to be able to fix that. But just being better prepared is all. But as always, thanks for your time watching this video. I'm in at 15 minutes here, so I appreciate it if you did watch it. Throw some comments out there. I'd love to get a good discussion going on this kind of thing. But take care, everybody, and thanks for watching. Purple Marine 81 out.